welcome back to my channel. I'm Cathy and this is Homespun by Cathy. I am excited to bring you this video. I have a birthday in a couple of days. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I'm gonna be 60. I can't believe I'm saying it. But you know what? It is what it is, and we just have to keep going, right? So I'm excited about my business. I still have to work a part-time job outside of this, but I'm working hard to try to get sales and get to the point where I can support myself doing woodworking because it's something I'm really passionate about. And I'm a late bloomer anyway, so, you know, it doesn't matter. But I want you to remember that you can purchase most of what you see here over on my website at homespunbycathy.com. And in this one, we're going to be finishing some farmhouse signs that I didn't get done in the last video. I had a real computer mess last time, so I apologize for that, but we've got it going now, and we're going to finish up on those signs, and then we're going to make some breadboards. I've got two big fall shows. I don't do a lot of shows. I didn't really want to, but I am this year, and I'm very excited about them. So I got to get a lot of stuff made. So we're just going to be churning some stuff out, and I'm starting with breadboards in this video. But I really appreciate you guys coming back and watching my videos. And if you haven't already, how about giving me a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and subscribe. And I would really appreciate it if you would share this to your friends. So let's hit it. I bought a drill bit that would drill the silver, and I went ahead and put 2 holes in this one, and then I taped off that edge because I only want to paint the middle. But I usually scuff them up with sandpaper and then coat them with this Krylon clear, flat crystal clear finish. It gives them a frosty appearance, but I want to give the paint every opportunity to coat well. So I did put 1 coat of just the chalkboard paint by itself, and I could tell it was too much silver showing through. So I went ahead and put in my baking soda, which I intended to do anyway, and I put a thick coat on it and let that dry completely. And then I went back with the second coat where you stipple it on. This is a 50-50 mixture of paint and baking soda. You can use latex paint, and it just helps it adhere to slick surfaces. It gives it a little texture, and it cuts down any shine that's in your latex paint. And it coats everything really well. So I finished with the second coat and removed the tape, and there were a couple little spots where I had to go back and touch it up around the edges, but it's going to make a great backing for the lettering. And speaking of the lettering, it didn't occur to me I was going to try to use carbon paper on a black background. And what you saw there were the graphite sheets I had to go to Hobby Lobby and purchase, but they did a phenomenal job. It's a white coating on one side, and you can actually run them through your printer on the other side, and then I wouldn't have to go through cutting the pages and all that stuff. It was about 12 sheets for $8. And they worked great. They gave me a good white line that I could follow with my white paint pens. And I actually felt like I had more control using the white paint on the black background than the other way around. I guess because it was a black background, when it dried, it was a little opaque. So I did go back and put a second coat on, but it turned out great. Unfortunately, I found out this particular platter is not magnetic, and that was my point of trying to use silver platters. So fortunately, I had also done this little blue platter with the baking soda mixture and put this quote on it, and it is magnetic because I want to do the silver platters and then make the little floral pods that we made last week
so people can interchange them and trade them out for holidays. I think it's a cute combination. Let me know what you think. I wanted to show you the other wood sign I make. Other than the pallet wood, I've started taking pieces of plywood and doing a faux shiplap look on them. I think it looks a little more modern, and I don't distress these. I leave them nice and smooth. So the first thing I need to do after I cut the size that I want is I lower the blade on my table saw and just enough to cut about 1/8 of an inch line through the board, not to come all the way through. And then I believe this board was about 12 inches wide, so I could get 3 lines in it so that it looks like it's 4 pieces of shiplap together. So I run it through the table saw and I do the middle line first. And that way, when I move my fence again, all I have to do is run it down one edge and then just twirl the piece of wood around and run it down the other. And then I have my 3 lines. I put a couple of coats of our homemade chalk paint on these boards. And I usually just take a little piece of sandpaper and fold it in half and run it through the grooves just to make sure they are nice and smooth as well. So I decided to do a fall or autumn sign with this one. And I had this piece of napkin. Now this was a 2-ply napkin and you can use it for decoupage. And I decided to use 2 corners on this sign. So you pull the napkin apart so you just have one sheet and it's very close to tissue paper. So I just cut it as close to the design as I could get it, not trying to be crazy, and placed them on the corner. I do not have the actual footage of me decoupaging this on, but I used a gloss decoupage because that's all I had. And I actually went back over it with a sanding block to cut down on the shine a little bit. And then I just used an X-Acto knife to cut along the groove and used a wooden skewer just to push the edges down into the groove. It was a little bit wet, so they stuck inside there. And I let that completely dry, and then I laid down my quote. And again, y'all have seen this a bunch of times, so I'm just going to run through this. I used the carbon paper to trace on my words, and then I used my paint pens that I get from Walmart to paint the quote. And the bottom word there did go over onto the graphic a little bit, and I like the way that looks. I think that is a cute fall sign. So I decided to do a couple of tassels. So I drilled holes and made a hanger with jute twine, and I looped it through from the back. And now I'm going to make 2 little small beaded tassels, and I'm going to tie those to the loops from the front, so that'll keep the hanger in place. I didn't want these tassels to be huge. We've made tassels before. I just used 3 pieces of the larger jute twine, and I had to use this wire to get the beads onto this piece of twine. The holes were pretty small in these beads. I didn't want these to be really long tassels or anything either, so when I frayed it, I didn't, just go crazy with getting every fiber loose. I just kind of separated the strands. I think that's really cute. So I got the other one made and tied it off, and we were all done. I made 2 of these, but I just wanted to show you how I create the faux shiplap. And these are my faux shiplap signs. This was a breadboard I had already made out of the end of a magazine rack, and I needed to make a second one just like it. I am donating these to a show that I'm going to be a vendor at in the fall, and I am donating these for their VIP basket giveaways. So I made a jig when I made the first one. It finally occurred to me I make the same shape over and over. So I made a jig out of a placemat from the dollar store. I think you get 3 for $1. And I just traced it onto the other end of the same magazine rack. Then I used my jigsaw to cut it out, and then I sanded it. I had put a little bit of wood filler in the holes, but these are really tiny holes and you really can't see them. So then I just gave it a good sanding, and on these I left a lot of the finish that was already on there. I think it gives it an aged look when I go back over it with the antiquing wax. And a little bit of gray was showing through on these too. So I think I did a pretty good job of matching them up, and we'll see these in the reveal at the end. These were some ends from an old quilt rack. Remember these things back in the day? Some of you older folks out there, oh my God, they were huge. Anyway, I played around with some IOD stamps thinking I might paint them because the holes were so big, and I filled them. But once I started sanding on the other side, I thought that the wood would look really good. So I decided to keep them natural. So I ran them through my table saw just to get a good length. And then I wanted to also cut off the little detail on the edges. But on one of the boards, there was some serious termite damage. So I kept trimming that board on each side until I couldn't see the termite damage anymore. And then it came out a little bit thinner or more narrow. So I decided to cut that into a square handle, which is new for me. And then I also made a jig out of that shape to use in the future. And I made this one a little bit shorter. And so from the cutoff, I decided to make a small breadboard, and I can use just about anything to come up with a shape. So I used the top of this tray for the breadboard, and then I used this little piece of sandpaper to make kind of a wedge design for the handle. And then I got that cut out with my jigsaw as well. And then I went to work on the one that I'm going to leave the larger hole in. I wanted to cut off the little detail at the top as well. I think this just helps it look like it's more natural, not from a piece of furniture. And then once I got that cut off, I gave them all a really good sanding. And when I went back to work on the one with the larger hole, I wanted it to look very, very rustic. So I took my knife and I made a bunch of scratches in the middle that might naturally happen over years and years. And I gouged it out in a couple places, and it turned out looking really, really cool that way. And then I went ahead and started waxing it. I actually painted that one black on the back because it still had the larger filled holes that you could see. So I painted it black and then just put antiquing wax on it. Didn't it turn out great? Then I wanted to put a little bit of a paint wash or whitewash with a couple different colors on the small board. I just felt like it was a modern kind of shape and it looked a little coastal to me. Then I like to add jute twine hangers and a little bit of faux floral around the necks. I used the thicker twine for the hanger, and then I use the smaller twine to go around the faux floral on the necks. I think it really adds to these, and a lot of people purchase them and then they don't take that off. They display them that way. When I got to the one that I had the larger hole, I really wish I had had some leather. I think it really would have looked pretty with some leather wrapped around the top of that handle. But the jute twine looks really good too, but I'm still going to be on the lookout for some leather. So we've got the breadboards made. Let me know what y'all think.